Loss is something we must all come to terms with in our lifetimes, no matter how strong we are. One of our rangers is grappling with grief today. Will he let it break him, or let it propel him towards his goal?
At the base, Jackson is talking to Grace in the break room and says,
He's always like this on this day every year. Dad always locks himself in his room.
and Grace rebuttals,
I always try to talk to him every year about it, but it's the only time he doesn't listen to me. Losing your mother has been hard on him.
Jackson then says in a sad tone,
Yeah, I get it. Trust me, I do.
The alarm then goes off from the main room and Grace exclaims,
Rangers, we have a new threat downtown.
and Jackson commands,
Come on, guys.
and the others nod their heads. Moments later, downtown the Rangers arrive and begin fighting a new Chaos Squadron monster named Sandwoman downtown that has brown and grayish skin and resembles a dung beetle. Just as it seems they are getting the upper hand, she blasts them with magical sand from her hand into the air and it knocks the Rangers out one by one. Back on the Chaos Squadron ship, Razor asks,
What's up with this new girl, Groper? What's so special about her?
and Groper answers,
Her sand will put everyone she sprays in an endless dream, and the longer they stay in the dream, the more of their life force it drains.
Sandwoman then walks on the ship and proclaims,
Dear Groper, the longer they stay in their dreams, the more their lives will be in danger. Once my hourglass runs out, they will die. They think their dreams will be a paradise, but it really will be a path to their demise.
Scion then looks at the hourglass in Sandwoman's hand and says,
Splendid! If this works, we will be one step closer to our goal.
Back at the base, Grace, Maxwell and his crew are all knocked out in different rooms from the Sands effect. The Rangers all go into a dream, and Becky, Lion, Colby, and Alexa dream about them coming back home. They all appear to be in their tribal clothing and their appearance has changed from that of a lifelike one to that of a three-dimensional video game character. Colby says,
Guys, look! The stone homes, the animal statues. This could only mean we're home.
and Lion replies,
Wow. I can't believe it. We're back.
while Becky picks up plants from the ground and says,
They smell just like they did last time we were here.
Meanwhile Alexa adds,
Yeah, we should go to Beast Central and see the Elder.
In Jackson's dream, he wakes in a world that has a glowing white atmosphere and walks around and asks,
Dad, Grace, Colby, Alexa, Lion, and Becky, are you there?
only to not get a response back. Jackson, confused, then continues to walk around looking for them and tries to make sense of this world. He then turns around and sees a lady in a white dress and instantly recognizes her. Jackson asks,
Mom, is that you?
and the lady answers.
Yes, it is, sweetie.
Jackson walks up to her and gives her a big hug. He then exclaims,
Mom, me and Dad have missed you so much. Today, Dad hasn't even come out of his room yet because it's the anniversary of your death.
and she replies,
Son, I can't believe we're together again, and I hope your father can keep his head up. I remember when you were born, he was the happiest I ever saw him. It was because he never knew his real parents, as they had given him up for adoption.
She then sits down and asks,
So, son, tell me what's been going on with you lately.
Jackson retorts,
Well, for starters, just a few months ago, I graduated high school. I got my black belt in karate, and I teach a class 2 times a week. Oh, and 2 months ago, I met some new friends, and I became a Power Ranger.
and she replies,
Wow, your dad always wanted to be a Power Ranger. I know this must have been an honor for him.
Jackson then says,
Well, at first, he wouldn't even let me leave the house without his bodyguards since you've been gone. But now, he seems to be less overprotective and is happy now that I'm a Power Ranger so far too.
and she commands.
Tell me more.
Meanwhile, in the others' dreams, they are sitting down and discussing their experiences on Earth with the elder of their world. The elder is a pale-skinned older man with long white hair and a white beard, dressed in tribal clothing with a lemur logo in the middle of his cloth, who walks with a stick. The elder says you got to meet the creator and the avatar, sounds like quite the journey. Colby responds.
Yeah, but home is special to us.
The elder then retorts, but did you defeat the Chaos Squadron there? And Colby rebuttals back,
No.
Afterwards the elder scuffs at them and says, well, you have not fulfilled your purpose, and Alexa replies,
our purpose was to get here.
And Lion interjects.
Yeah, we've done enough for the Earth. We put our lives on the line time and time again. It's time to get what we want.
The elder then exclaims, how selfish Lion, and then hits Lion on the head with his walking stick. Following that, the elder says you've all got your purposes wrong, and adds, now let me tell you what your true purposes are. Back in Jackson's dream, he is still talking to his mom about his dad. His mom asks,
So are he and Grace a thing now?
Jackson then says,
No, Mom. Miss Grace has too much respect for you to even do that. Plus, she doesn't even see Dad that way. But she sticks by his side even through his craziest ideas, though.
He then retorts,
Dad hasn't even looked at another woman in a while.
And she replies, And she interjects,
Your life doesn't sound so bad after all.
Jackson then says,
Without you, it's not as good as it could be, though.
She then says,
Jackson, I want you to keep living your life, even without me. I'm not saying forget me. I'm only telling you to keep doing what's best for you and your dad, and keep making me proud.
Jackson then says,
But Mom, you're supposed to be here with Dad and me, watching me grow older, find a wife, and see me save people as a Power Ranger.
And she replies,
I'll always be here with you, and here, and here.
As she points to his head and heart. And she interjects,
Jackson, keep looking after your dad for me and doing well for yourself.
Back in the other dream, the elder proclaims your purposes aren't to get back here. Your purposes should be to protect those who the Chaos Squadron has endangered. After you've accomplished that, you should think about returning home. The Creator and your masters didn't entrust you with those powers to waste them. Afterwards, as the elder finishes his speech, 3 figures show up. One is a slender dark-skinned being with a mohawk with tribal clothing and a coyote logo in the middle of his cloth. The other resembles a Caucasian man with a mullet, a slight build, and tribal clothing with an alligator logo in the middle of his clothing. The other being resembling a Hispanic woman with medium-length iris-colored hair, a skinny build, and tribal clothing with an ape logo in the middle of her dress. Alexa then says,
Masters Isaiah, Paul and Sarah, it's been so long since we've seen you.
And Isaiah proclaims you guys should listen to the elder's wisdom, and at the same time, Sarah also adds your priority has always been making sure the Chaos Squadron doesn't cause havoc, and lastly Paul says home will always be here, but Earth won't be if you sit up and abandon it. All 5 then put their hands on their hearts and salute their masters. Becky then says,
You're right. Jackson and his dad needs us.
And Colby thinks back to his conversation with Maxwell a month ago about Earth and retorts,
As much as I want to be home, Earth is home to others, and they value it just as much as I value here.
Lion then says,
I'm sorry, Elder. You were right that the world needs us.
And Alexa asks,
How are we going to get back?
Lion then feels a sensation inside his nose and then puts his hand on his nose to cover an incoming sneeze and disappears. Colby, Alexa, and Becky then ask,
What happened?
And put their hands on their noses and then disappear too. Moments later, Lion is woken up beside them when they appear back downtown. Lion says,
The last time we was here, we was fighting that monster that sprayed us with the sand.
Becky rebuttals,
Look over there. It's Jackson. He's still asleep.
Alexa then commands,
Let's wake him up.
Back in Jackson's dream he replies,
Okay, Mom.
And she gives him a hug as he's crying, and a voice in the distance yells, You need to wake up. And Jackson wakes up to Lion shaking him hard. Jackson then gets up and asks,
What happened?
Becky then retorts,
That sand trapped us all in dreams.
And Jackson replies,
I had a crazy dream for sure.
Lion exclaims,
So did we, brother.
And Colby rebuttals,
Everybody around here is still trapped in their dreams. We have to wake them up before it's too late.
Alexa then says,
First, we have to figure out how to not get knocked out by her sand.
Becky proclaims,
I have an idea.
And afterwards pulls a bandana out of her purse and commands,
Here, everybody, take them and wrap them around your faces.
Furthermore, everyone looks at her strangely but reluctantly agrees. Lion then asks,
Why do you have so many of these?
and Becky answers,
I use them to wrap my hair in them.
and she adds,
They should be able to prevent us all from inhaling the toxins from the sand.
The others nod their heads and Alexa says.
I hear something.
Afterwards, everybody follows her and goes towards the boardwalk at the beach, only to see Sandwoman and the Pixels laying in the sand enjoying themselves. Jackson then proclaims,
Your fiesta is over.
Sandwoman then gets up and asks,
How did you wake back up? I thought you were knocked out for sure.
Alexa then cracks her fist and exclaims,
You're about to find out what being knocked out feels like in a minute.
and Lion interjects.
Yeah, you can't just go around killing people with good dreams.
The others then look at Lion with a look of confusion. Jackson then says,
Okay, Lion.
and commands,
Everyone, let's suit up.
all five then pull out the digital prisms and press the button with the morphing icon on it and yells,
Digital prism! Digitize!
The five then go into a morphing sequence and the prisms form around them and crystallize into Power Rangers suits. All Rangers then go into beast mode. Sandwoman then says,
Not so fast.
and releases her sand from her hands, and Jackson replies,
Not this time.
and deflects it with his wings and afterwards commands,
Guys, shoot the hourglass in her hand. That's what's keeping everyone asleep.
all five of the Rangers pull out their beast blasters and blast the hourglass out of her hand. Sandwoman says,
That is my most valued possession.
and as the hourglass falls, the Rangers then try to get it off the ground. Sandwoman then rebuttals,
Let's see if you can handle the power of my sand.
She then extends her sand from her hand and forms a hand with it that grabs the Rangers and squeezes them like a boa constrictor. Sandwoman proclaims,
I will squeeze you to death.
and Jackson says while he's being squeezed,
You're gonna regret messing with our heads like that.
Alexa then says,
Her grip is strong.
but Lion rebuttals
But I'm stronger.
and powers himself out of her sand. And Lion destroys the sand wrapped around Jackson with his beast's blaster. Jackson then says,
Don't worry, I've got this one.
Jackson then shouts,
Beast mode, activate, Rhino power.
and an energy radiates around him that causes a rhino-like horn to stick up on his helmet, and his suit logo changes from a sparrow to a rhino. Jackson then reaches into the air and grabs a chainsaw whose blade is shaped like a rhino horn. Sandwoman says,
You won't be able to save your friends or those people in time.
and squeezes her sand around the other three even harder than before. Jackson then immediately rebuttals,
We'll see about that.
and revs up the rhino saw, jumps up and saws the rest of her sand-like hand wrapped around the others. The other three fall to the ground and catch their breath. Becky then says,
Nice save, Jackson. I felt like I was going to pass out.
and Colby retorts.
Yeah, it's a good thing you moved fast.
Meanwhile, Alexa adds,
Yeah, that was clutch for sure.
Sandwoman following that jumps down and engages in a fight with the Rangers. Jackson says,
You'll be counting the lights soon.
and Lion adds,
She sure will.
and the other Rangers activate beast mode. Becky then creeps up on Sandwoman and kicks her while Lion attacks Sandwoman with his claws. Colby then picks her up with his antlers and throws her on the ground hard. Next, as she struggles to get up, Jackson then gets into a bridge position and Alexa jumps off his back and decks Sandwoman with her fins on her forearms. Sandwoman then gets up and says,
I have to get the hourglass.
and runs towards it. Jackson then retorts,
I doubt you'll make it.
and chases after her and flips in front of the hourglass. As the other Rangers are forming the beast bazooka, Jackson exclaims,
Rhino wedge!
and slashes her. She then stumbles and turns around. The other Rangers then say,
Beast Bazooka! Dynamic finish!
and Alexa pulls the trigger. The blast then destroys Sandwoman. Jackson then picks up the hourglass and proclaims,
Now, dispose of this before it runs out.
Alexa then replies,
We're on it.
and the other four Rangers pull out their beast blasters and blast the hourglass into bits. After that, everyone in the city then wakes up. Back on the Chaos Squadron ship, Groper says,
Madam, may you give her a reset?
and Zealot presses a button on the ship and a giant black cartridge appears by the beach and materializes into Sandwoman. Afterward, she exclaims,
I'm going to get you for destroying my hourglass.
and Jackson rebuttals,
The only thing you'll be getting is put in your place.
All 5 of the Rangers call on their Zords and the Zords charge from the base into the city. The Rangers then board into their Zords. In their Zords, the Rangers grab their controllers and press the button with the Megazord logo on it. Their Zords then come together and the Rangers say,
Digital Beast Megazord!
The Megazord charges at Sandwoman and it hits her with its sword. Sandwoman then says,
"Try this on for size,"
and manages to fend off her sandstorm. Jackson afterwards retorts,
It's a good thing you told us to put these bandanas on, Becky.
Alexa then retorts,
Yeah, they're working, but we still can't see her through this storm.
and Jackson replies,
I'm going to bring out the Rhino Zord. Alexa, shoot some water at this sand.
Alexa then presses a button on her controller and her Zord sprays water on the sand in the air. As the other Zord is distracting Sandwoman, Jackson then boards the Rhino Zord, presses a button on his controller, and shouts,
Take this!
The Zord then knocks Sandwoman in the air with its horn and she falls again. Jackson then commands,
We have to attack her before she forms another storm.
And the Rangers press buttons on their controllers and the Rhino Zord then fuses with the Megazord. As Sandwoman slowly stands back up, the Rangers then press a button on their controllers. Afterwards, a grappling gun with a hook in the middle of it descends in the Megazord's hand, and then the Zord presses the trigger on the grappling gun and it plunges its hook into Sandwoman's chest and sends a wave of energy through it that ultimately destroys her. Later in the day, back at the base, Jackson goes into his dad's room at the base and asks,
Dad, what was your dream about?
Maxwell then afterwards replies in a shaky voice,
Well, son, it was about me and your mom dancing at our wedding reception.
Jackson responds,
Well, mine was about meeting Mom again. In my dream, we had conversations about how my life is going right now, and it almost felt real.
Maxwell then replies,
Son, I'm sorry. I'm not in the best mood today. Please don't bring up your mother.
And Jackson retorts,
Dad, that's the problem. We both properly haven't learned how to deal with our grief, and we should be celebrating her life, just as we did with Apollo. We always talk about how proud she would be of us, but do you think she would be proud of us knowing what we're doing now?
Maxwell then lifts his head and Jackson follows his prior statement with,
We have to start moving on with our lives today. It's been 10 years. We can't let days like this depress us.
Maxwell then looks up at Jackson and says,
Son, you're right. We shouldn't be sitting up here moping. We should be thinking about the good things she did for us.
And then he asks,
You want to know what's the best thing she ever did for me?
Jackson then asks,
What is it, Dad?
And Maxwell answers,
The best thing she ever did was bring you into this world, son. I'm glad to have you in my life each and every day. I love you, man.
And the two of them hug and give each other a high five. Meanwhile, as the others and Grace are peeking in on the conversation from the hallway, Grace says,
I'm happy those two are in better spirits.
Jackson walks out of the room and Becky says,
Jackson, I know today hasn't been the best, but I gathered up the others and suggested that we go to the park to help clear your mind.
Jackson responds,
Thanks, Becky. I wouldn't mind getting out of here for a few minutes.
Maxwell walks out of his room and asks,
Wait, hold up, guys. I was wondering, could I tag along with you? If, you wanted me to.
Becky answers,
Sure, the more the merrier.
And Maxwell, Jackson, and the other 4 Rangers head outside, and as everyone else is leaving, Grace contemplates her dream of her and Maxwell kissing in a castle.